Thank you.
All right. This meeting is live streaming. I always want to leave. When it says leave meeting, I always want to leave, even though I started. YouTube and Zoom, get your shit wired. It's okay. I'm the one that literally started the meeting. Oh, my goodness. All right, I got to get into the button pushing. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, this is the MCC Virtual Business Box Lunch Festive Edition. I am your host, Mitch Cavage, and today, a 1% business needs a 1% attitude. And as always, are my brothers from other mothers, Paul and Matt riding shotgun. You're going to hear from them in a moment. And with us, the always energetic Shannon Berry, and of course, our resident queen rocking in here for the MCC Virtual Business Box Lunch, because she's here all the damn time anyway. Lorette, she just went off camera. No, this is live. Your ass better turn that camera back on right away.
I'm sorry, I can't have that other background up.
All right, I'm going to turn the floor over to everybody else for a moment. I'm going to do the button pushing and the thing making happening. And when we're ready to go, we're going to dive into it for this week. I've got a very special theme for today. And as always, part of our main theme is I pick the topics. Nobody knows what the hell it's about until they show up here, and then let the games commence. From that moment on, Matt, Paul, the floor is yours for a moment while I sit there and finish doing the thing over on the other screen. Don't all talk at once.
Christmas is coming. Ah! So now everything just kind of seems to pile up. Have you got your Christmas decorations up? Have you got your presents already bought? Or are you like me, last minute?
We don't do presents.
Anyone else? No? Very festive.
We've chatted enough over the past 2-3 months about supply chain issues that I've been fairly diligent with making sure that I'm just checking the list twice. Most people have been naughty this year anyway, so it's been fairly easy. But yeah, I think I always believe that I'm prepared, but then when I do things early, it typically is still at the December 23rd thing going, oh shit, I forgot this. Oh shit, I forgot this too. So anyway, I'm ready. I'm going to pretend that I'm ready.
I'm working on a magic trick. So like, stuff's going to come out of my butt for sure.
I'm just stressed out over how much the meals are going to cost, because that's what we do. Like, that's what my family prefers to do, is like, it's the getting together and going out to the festivals and just having like that. It's more of an ambiance than it is a season, right? And like, there's a certain feeling of Christmas. And so we kind of cash in on that. But I'm telling you, the cost of groceries right now and gasoline, that's what's got me stressed out this season.
I miss Krampus. I'm so upset about that.
I know. How did we miss Krampus?
That's way better than Christmas.
Right?
But to speak to that, the perfect stocking stuffer and the perfect gift now is like the gas card, the car wash card, and the grocery gift card, right? Like, it literally is going to be a season of plastic giving, which is not very sustainable. But as long as you can reload all of them, then I guess that you can kind of play in many different worlds.
The reuse.
Absolutely. It's all about sustainability, right? I'm reusing someone else's background right now. It's easy. Anyway, Mitch, we didn't actually go through who, what, when, where, and why. No? Nobody cares.
Yes, you need to do it still.
We're 1% business operators. That's what I want to share. Again, everybody that has been here before, Matt Hewson, a broker of certainty with Mitch Camage and his coaching team. I love these Fridays because it's not quite the wind up, but it's kind of the start of the, hey, you know what, it's heading to the weekend. But how many of us like blink, wake up and it's Monday, and then they blink again, they wake up and it's Friday, and you're like, what's just happened? So we're having a tremendous week. I think there's been a lot of, smart things to be said, smart things to be done, but we are literally 2 weeks away from the Ho-Ho Man coming. So if you're not ready, you better get ready. The biggest thing though is that in 11 days, the days start getting longer already. And look at us, we've had glorious weather, lots to be impressed and happy about. So my hope is that people are just finding ways to be grateful within the season.
All right, are you ready? Here's the best gift I can bestow you today. because next week's episode is the flip side. It's part 2 of this one today. Okay. Part 1 today. So if you're here today, you got to make sure you're here next Friday as well to do part 2. Part 1. We had the 6-month review almost exactly 6 months ago. We are having the 6-month review, part 2. So at the end of the year, but your challenge today, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to think about it, because everybody's going to lay their one of this out. I want everybody else to comment on it. Make sense? What is the biggest problem you have seen in your business or another in the last 6 months? Biggest problem or biggest challenge that you have seen. It can be chronic. It can be a one shot, a one instance. It can be people related. In other words, it was an individual. It was a situation or process. Paul just went off camera. He's like, I'm out. I'm done. I'm out. Can't do this. Gone. Right? What is the biggest problem or challenge you have seen, your business or somebody else's, in the last 6 months? And then what did we start to do about it? But I want everybody else to put feedback in on that one as well. So there's 4 of you thinking about it. Go and jot a note for a moment. Think about it. But I want the rest of the panel to put some input on it as well. So internally, I'm going to have a little bit of a clock to keep us narrowed in. But the biggest problem we saw, and then what we either, it could be ongoing. Hell, we could not even have had a solution. It's okay. But I want to think of the biggest, most prevalent, most invasive, not a little tiny thing. Yeah, I see little problems all day, every day. Well, hell, for the business coaches on this call, how often do we problem solve, troubleshoot, and just deal with situational awareness, right? No, I'm talking big. I'm talking holy cow. I'm talking, this one's going to hurt if we don't get it fixed. So I'm going to give you another 30 seconds a minute. And for everybody out there in La La Land, in TV land, you're joining us live on YouTube. If you saw the link on LinkedIn popped up as well, don't hesitate to get involved in the chat. Drop some notes there. We have questions show up just about every week right now, which is kind of cool. Last week, we had a whole bunch pop up, which was really kind of fun to watch as well. So make sure you get in there, get involved in the chat, etc. Go ahead and drop some notes in there. The biggest problem, last 6 months, heck, you read all of this here that you saw happen. It's okay if you didn't have a solution, or if you did, could be your business or somebody else's. I want to put it out there, and I want the rest of the panel to get involved. So do your mental stretches, roll your shoulders, do some push-ups, right? Remember, 1% business needs a 1% attitude. What are we going to do about it after? Now, why did I say today is part A, or the first part, and next week's the second part? Because next week, whoever's on the panel, we're going to talk about one of the best things we saw in business in the last year. So this is what we call foreshadowing in entertainment business. On next week's episode, you're going to hear the great things we've seen in the last 6 months of the last year and what you could take away as lessons to learn for your business. But this week, we're going to focus on problems. Boo! Well, hey, that's what we're doing. That's what we're getting to. We're going to focus on that stuff. And Dawn's coming in like always. So let him pop in, give him some context, and then we'll fire away. Dawn, you're here. You should have the audio clicking right now. This week is part A. Next week is part B. Good to see you as always, my brother. This week, biggest problem or challenge, can be your business or somebody else's, that you've seen in the last 6 months or even the last year, but we'll try and stay the last 6 months. And then everybody on the panel is going to comment how we should solve that problem. Make sense?
Got it.
Give you a moment to write some notes. Everybody else has been getting involved in that already. Matt, you're leading the way. What you got?
Yeah, I'm like chomping at the bit here because I knew exactly what I was going to say. Through the continued pandemic, people are majoring in minor. They think that activity leads to economy, and that's not the truth. So they've just gotten busy being busy, finding new ways, or so they think. And it's just scattered so many people. So I put a couple of different things: engagement and spinning wheels, being present, or the presence and mindset of the business owner or the management or leadership team. And then again, majoring in minor. And that's been not a common theme, but certainly something that when seen needs to be adjusted very, very quickly, because it can create some major challenges.
All right, panel, what we got? What we got?
You can have a plan
Qualify,
until
clarify.
No, it's my turn to go. Yep. You can have a plan until you get punched in the face. So this, year was about getting punched in the face. The biggest problem this year was the punch in the face. So self-mastery and understanding you get punched in the face all the time. What are you going to do? That was my problem this year, was a lot of face punching. That's why I'm excited about punching Matt in the face eventually. But I'm not going to do it this year. I lost.
All right. Who else has got what for Matt's problem?
Yeah, I found, Matt, that a lot of people have that same problem, and I get into that kind of mode myself and I have to always go back to the main plan and kind of reestablish what the goals were, what we're trying to do, because it's easy to drift off and get pushed off with this thing and that thing, and then confuse activity with accomplishment. And got lots of stuff done, or chipped my sidewalk or whatever, but I didn't actually do anything on my business. It's like, wait a minute, let's go back. What's my purpose of my business, and what were my 90-day goals that I was supposed to work on? And say, yeah, right. And I have one client, he had to kind of just reshift everything and start writing out his lists and say, I'm going to send you a update every day because I need to stay focused on the important things. I'm doing all these other things that are minor, and I'm not doing all the big stuff. So, those conversations, just saying, let's maybe keep making those lists and keep going. What's the top one? What's the top two? And focusing on those. So it's a constant reminder to you that you need to do the important things and not just the fun things or stuff that give you a little bit of satisfaction. It's like, I like vacuuming the floor. It's like, you vacuum it or cut the grass. You stand back and you go, oh, I did a great job. It looks so smooth and nice, but did it advance my business? No, it just made me feel good for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Paul, thoughts?
First, let me unmute myself. Some sage advice from a business coach that I know who's savage in business says to his clients is, why are you not treating your business like a client? Why are you neglecting your duties, yourself? Would you treat your client like you're treating yourself? So why are you not blocking that time off? And why are you not putting attention to what that attention needs to go to?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts? Anybody else? Going once, going twice? I want to reinforce this for the audience out there for a moment. Majoring in major, not majoring in minor. In other words, seeing the consistency that we like to go back to when our behavior is always going to railroad us or push us back into the groove we're most comfortable with. This change is scary and frightening, and it's tough to work in an area where you don't think success is going to come out. I've got another coach as a client where we had this conversation about her time and her schedule 3 weeks ago. And when she was talking about how always feeling overwhelmed, always feeling like there was too much going on, how she never had time to breathe, etc., then we compared calendars for a moment. And I was screen sharing mine, and she's screen sharing hers, and she goes, mine looks nothing like yours. Oh, you get so much more done than I do. Well, no, I do different things with my time. Same hours in the day, right? 86,400 seconds in a day. I only have so many to work with, just like you do. She goes, I'm not getting the same result. It's not working the same way as well. So even the best of us can have the best of intentions and get stuck doing the other things. I've been watching a lot of video content about exactly this the last little while about performance and trying to improve mine. And one from a well-noted person who is now a top player in poker in the world and is also a gun aficionado and does a number of other things. And he has a beard and he's a controversial figure. That's as close as I'm going to get to saying a name. Was actually talking about this on a performance and a success podcast. And he goes, I only focus on the stuff that is most important in my business. I spend 8 hours a day doing the most important things in my business. He goes, I don't cook. I don't clean the toilet in my house. I don't handle the banking. I don't do all these other things. Well, why would you not do that? Why would you pay somebody else? I focus on only the things that are the most important to my business. 100% the most important. Leverage somebody else, pay somebody else, get rid of things. This in a coaching world or realm for people out there for a moment is called yes and no management. We tend to say yes to things all the time. and our list of no's is really little, you have to flip that around. You have to know a handful of things you're willing to say yes to. Well, Mitch, I have to do my taxes. Do you have to do your taxes? Get an accountant. I can't afford an accountant. Well, in the 4 hours it takes you to do your bookkeeping this month so you can get your accounting caught up before you can file your taxes, could you go earn the $300 that it would take to pay a bookkeeper? Ask yourself that question. Best thing I ever did for my household, not because I didn't enjoy lawn care before. I actually love cutting the grass. Love cutting the grass, love taking care of the yard. I pay somebody to cut my grass, and in the winter, they shovel my walks. I'm saving 3 or 4 hours a week in Alberta winter on a regular basis once the snow flies, just by not doing that myself. I pay somebody. Some months it sucks. Other months I don't think about it at all. On the months when there's next to no snow falling in the sky, I'm like, why am I paying for this? But the moment they show up, or when we rain freezing water out of the sky, and I don't mean snow, I mean it literally rained and then froze as soon as it hit the ground the other day. I was very grateful that dude that came by 4 hours later and graveled everything. Like, love it. That's well worth the cost. So what is the price you're going to put on being able to overcome this by majoring in major as opposed to majoring in minor? What are the tasks that you're going to continue to focus on, or how are you going to change the way your time works so that it is only those things? All right. Good job, crew. Good job, panel. Who's up next? Who's got a challenge or a problem for us to lay out next? Lorette, what you got?
I was just thinking about refined movement, because like the definition of this year sucked. I like broke my ankle, had to learn how to walk. So like running a company and then scaling back to simplicity, that's like wisdom 101 right now. That is like, hey, I only have 8 hours of the day. What's one thing that I can do in my business to make it legendary? That's kind of how I played the game. So I'm like, oh, I'm going after private institutions. Oh, I'm just talking to those people. So my general question to everyone is, what was your refined movement this year? What'd you do to make your company legendary?
Strategic partnerships, knowing who the right people at the right time are, kind of to elaborate a little bit more with what Mitch was saying. Like, I know that I am not a bookkeeper, and just find somebody better, align with them, and make sure that there's a value proposition, whether or not an exchange of goods, money, crypto, eggnog, it doesn't matter, right? Make it a value proposition that makes sense and find somebody better. So strategic partnerships was a big win for me this year.
I'm on the same page actually. So yeah, partnerships 100%. You have to establish those first, build the relationships. It might take longer, but once you hit it, it's absolutely priceless. So, and that's one of the biggest focus, I think, for me for the next year also, to do that, continue doing that. So, and I would recommend that to anyone else. Look into this as well.
Having a coach to call you on your own shit, like we can all identify those areas that we're avoiding, or like Mitch was saying, we get off track, right? We're on our game, and then a few things come in, because it's like Murphy's Law. It's never one. It's always a series of them, and then we get pushed back into old habits or old ways of thinking. So having somebody that can hold you accountable, whether it's a coach or a group.
Mm-hmm.
I had to relearn the value of specializing this year again. I've got 2 clients right now on my docket that I took that are not my typical client. And I've worked with them for barely a month, and I already know I need to find them someone else to provide those services for them. I tried to kind of just take all comers because I wanted to help all small businesses, but not all small businesses are my focus, are my specialty. And so so I'm just having to kind of remind myself, relearn that there's actually more profitability, more satisfaction in having a narrower client avatar or client base than trying to work with everybody, because it just takes away my time from those people and those businesses that I can help the most, because I'm too busy fighting and dealing with all the drama or the issues or whatever from these other people that I took on that aren't my ideal client.
Don, go for it.
Yeah, I found that was important this year, and it seems like this year's gone so fast. But at the beginning, I just realigning, jumping in with the members of the coaching group and syndicate and so forth. It was like surrounding myself with like-minded people in that industry really helped, me kind of grow in that as a coach, because I'm seeing and learning from other people in it and building tighter relationships with fewer people, but deeper. And so I've kind of gone from being wide to more focused, and I really, call a lot of these people on this screen here, part of my team. And, I have some other teams I'm on, but it's building tighter, stronger relationships. So I want to hang out with the people that want to go the same places I want to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts? Interesting how we started with majoring in minor, not majoring in minor, and then we went to what it is that you really got to focus on, and it starts to develop relationships. Every week we talk about problems, challenges, the stuff that happened in business, how to resolve it, provide some ideas and suggestions, our opinion. We've spoken about cryptocurrency, even though we really don't want to talk about the state of governance or COVID or other things like that when we come into these meetings. But it's weird how things like crypto and the way money is working, et cetera, continues to come back over and over again. But we hear the same universal standards for what is ultimately business excellence. You look at the most professional people on earth. They've got a good secure network around them. They are focused on the most important functions in their business. They unapologetically get rid of the stuff that they shouldn't be working on at any point in time. And when they have problems, what do? They go right back to that network first to solve problems. These are the things that become universal standards for excellence. Or, the latest shirt in our lineup is this one: a 1% business needs a 1% attitude. Where's your business at? Is it a 1% business? If it's not, then what's it going to take? Because that's one of the biggest problems we've got right now. If you got truncated time, if you got to work from home, if you got to spend half your time on Zoom, if you got to take care of the kids, if you got to break up a fist fight, I've lost track of the number of kid-related fist fights I've broken up in the middle of a client meeting in the past 20 months since the pandemic started, right? You're going, Mitch, you got 2 little girls. How does that work? They fight like prison inmates, okay? They're going for blood, and they're out for territory rights. Like, one of them's trying to make a name for themselves over top of the body of the other. So I got to intervene quickly because my daughters are going for it. They're after the crown. So because of that, all of that changes. And so when I have to focus on business, it has to be 1%, highest order of good, most important stuff. Get other people to do things for you, right? All right. There we go. Who's got the next one? Who's got the next one for the panel? Who's got the next one? Last 6 months, big problem, not little, big problem that you've been experiencing. Somebody else you saw could be a friend, could be a partner's business. It could be a client or a customer you had. But what a big problem they had. Maybe you had a solution, maybe you didn't. Let's get it, put it on the floor here, stretch it out, push it back together. Who's got the next one in line?
Some that keep coming up time and time again is marketing and sales and the disconnect. It's almost like sales is completely separate from marketing, and not understanding that, your marketing is there to support your sales, but eventually take away from you having to be present in that and have your marketing working for you 24/7. So I find it's a black hole. It's a disconnect, or it's just, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to hear about it, and not realizing that, it doesn't have to be difficult. I think on the marketing side, the industry helps to make it difficult. I don't think they do themselves any service on that, and I think everybody's had a bad story with a marketing firm too, so that doesn't help either. So that's what I've found in the last year, is that sales and marketing, they don't understand that they're hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Trevor, we love you too, brother. Sorry, I had to comment. Somebody goes, "Hey, Tribe, great to see the legends in action." We love you.
On the flip side of that, though, Paul, so I'm having an issue right now with a client who doesn't want to provide any kind of content, doesn't want to, we've got an agreement, and I very clearly outlined what the expectations were from the client and what they could expect from me. They're not coming through at all, and I literally got a text message just this morning going, I'm not getting any phone calls. There's nobody coming through my door. Can you ramp it up a little bit? So I think some of those bad experiences that we've had with marketing companies, and don't get me wrong, being in the sphere, I've had my own difficulties. There's certain practices that happen in my industry that they should not exist. I get it. But at the same time too, it would be great if business owners could educate themselves a little bit ahead of time as to what marketing is, what advertising is. Take the time to sit down and write out their goals and understand the value of what they're asking somebody to bring into their business. Because we're not living in Shakespeare times. You don't just open up the door to the street, put out the tile, and people just come because they need the product and they're on their way to work. So, you sell those gloves? Oh, go buy those gloves because it's just on my way. That doesn't happen anymore. And though we've lived in this sphere for so long with digital and all of this stuff, there's still so many businesses, and even executives, so people that are leading these corporations and these companies that don't get it. And then they come to us, and no matter what we say, no matter what we do to try to get them to understand, they just have these expectations that there's just absolutely no way we can fulfill. And then, of course, they've had a bad experience with us and it's all bunk, and they run around bad mouthing all of the advertising and marketing. And so while I do agree with you, my industry has provided, as every industry does, some questionable experiences for some people. I do believe it's a very give and take realm, very give and take. It's not like accounting where you hand it to your bookkeeper, your accountant, and it's these rules or whatever, and it goes by that, right? Educate yourselves, know what you're asking for, see the value in it, because otherwise you're guaranteed to have a bad experience.
When I started my company, I thought that people knew their 30-second elevator pitch. I thought that was refined. But I know people that have been in business for 5 years, don't even know how to sell their company. I'm like, that's a problem. That is a problem. So me coming into career development, starting my company the first year was can I run an empire? Yeah. And I can tell a good story. If I can do it, anyone can do it. But then no one tells you, I get why most companies fail in the first 5 years, because the second year in business, you have created this amazing game, but you suck at the game. You suck at the game so bad. I kind of suck this year, but thank goodness I have strong people that I have aligned with, that I can chat with, to be why do I suck? How do I get better? And that's kind of the process of life, is to tell a good story. You need friends that can help you to make the story better, right? But trust me, you need to fail in order to succeed. And this is why I deeply respect entrepreneurs. We have failed so much, but then we get to succeed. So yay.
Anybody else? Comments, questions? 1, 2, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, dealing with that sales and marketing thing all the time, Paul. And sometimes I think, it gets so confusing. We don't know where to start and where to, what to do, or we take on the opposite, is we take on too many methods at the same time. Probably you can only manage about 3 really good ones. Say, I'm going to have a focus on this, and this, and, really try to hone and figure out if they're, paying you and giving you a good ROI on that return. But it seems like, focusing and balancing. And so my advice is not too wide, but also have a plan that this piece fits into this piece, which fits into this piece. So, if your attack is on social media, then you maybe have to make sure you're doing a LinkedIn campaign, a social media, Facebook campaign, maybe Instagram, if that's where you can be most effective, then you have maybe 3 prongs that attack it. But most of us have to add things like we have to add the referral connection group. We have to have maybe the networking group. We also have to have some kind of marketing, maybe advertising. And as I was thinking for another client yesterday, it's like, what is the best way for this particular client to get a word out about him? And, it's not always the same answer, a Google ad or a Facebook ad, or, they've been there and done that, maybe ineffectively, and spent tons of money on it, and nothing happened. And I say, well, maybe that's just not the way you market your service. People need to know and trust you better before they're going to take this on. So, I just think really thinking of it as a concept of multi pieces, how they fit together, and really sticking to a plan for long enough. And I'm sure Shannon will attest that some of these things take a while to kick in. The clients are so quick to kind of just say, it's not working, the phone's not ringing. Well, hey, it's only been 3 months or 4 months. It takes a while, and we certainly revisit it, but we have to give some things time.
Mm. Absolutely.
With Paul's question, and Don, to your commentary as well, the number of business owners or people, I had a conversation just this morning that was very much on this, where the idea of talking to people was so overwhelming, and I don't mean in a frightening way, but just so overwhelming that even being able to pick a number and do it was staggering, and took the better part of an hour-long conversation to get this gentleman committed to just talking to 3 people. He went to a networking event on Wednesday, and the first thing he says when we come into a coaching call this morning is, what do I do next? Well, communicate with them. And when you do it, structure it just like this. Think in a really simplistic format. Think about formatting your conversation. Think about the way you're going to put the structure in place for that. How should you do it? Well, ask them to talk about themselves and their business and how they got to where they're at right now. You return the favor by talking about you, your business, and how you got to where you're at right now. And when you're done that, both you're going to have an idea whether or not there's something else to talk about for business. At that point, you can explore that. If something crops up, then take it to another conversation. And he goes, well, that's revelatory. Well, it's simplistic, but for him, it was something unique. And it was better to spend 48 hours agonizing over it. Interesting is that I got an email an hour ago, so an hour after we spoke, saying, I reached out to all 3 people. I'm talking to somebody next week. It was more important to spend 48 hours trying to figure out what to do and whether or not the number was right than just to pick the 3 people that he had actually talked to and communicate with them and have some form of framework. So even that is far better. And then to Don's point about figuring out as quickly as you can without sacrificing anything, where you should focus your time and attention, because not all things to all people. I've got a home service-based business that does far more business with simple boosted posts on Facebook and what else, posts in mamas groups, than they've ever done out of paid advertising anywhere else. The power of the mama and a mama's group on Facebook is far better for their business to show up than it is anything else you could spend money anywhere else. Why? That is leveraging relationships you don't even have. If I make Matt and Paul happy customers and they tell all the people in their social circles, chances are they're going to buy what I'm selling. Why? Paul and Matt are happy. All right. Good work. Good work. All right. Next problem, next challenge. Let's get it out in the open. Who's got what? Don, go for it.
Yeah, no, a very tough challenge. It was hard to see in an owner of a business. The supply chain problem of him getting product in has turned his whole business around, where he can't focus on other things of leadership and development of his company, whatever. This supply chain issue is overwhelming. And the problems are, he's used to selling a product for a customer and say, here's your price, and I can build 100 of these every month for you for the next year for this price. And now he has to tell them, I can't be sure from 1 week to the next whether I'll get your parts, how much they're going to cost, how much I have to charge you for it, and I can't give you a firm price on it. I can maybe be sure about my labor, but everything else is up in the air. And so he's having to have all these conversations with people and that are used to a nice standard program, and it's driving him nuts. And all his sourcing people, he had to add 2 extra people, and they're all just swamped trying to find alternatives because the main suppliers, number 1, 2, and 3, are all out. It's really debilitating his business and turning him off about being an entrepreneur. So, it's like, how do you deal with, that kind of situation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's a good one. I got thoughts I'll save to the end. Panel?
I'll
Take
start
a
real
sec.
quick. I obviously can personally say it happens because we have a client that we're dealing with, and trying to find restaurant equipment that is there today, but also going to be there in 6 days. I think it's very similar to the real estate game right now, right? Whereas if you want that house, you better come in with a bag of money and no conditions, because it's going to be gone in 48 hours, right? So it definitely creates some barriers that you just, again, you have to work around, right? So you need to come up with not only one plan, but a 3-tiered plan, right? Here's A, B, and C. It's going to be timeline based, it's going to be budget based, or it's going to be right in the middle. And you have to have those clients pick what they want, right? So it's, yes, supply chain is something that we've chatted about quite a bit over the course of the last 6-7 weeks. And you can see it, like you can see in some of the retail stores, they just don't have the glut of inventory that they would typically have for Christmas, right? And even the overnight guys, the big players out there aren't overnight anymore. They're 48 to 72, and sometimes it's your package is delayed, and then you're like, oh, you better order now because it's going to be late, right? So I absolutely agreed on that. That's been, you have to be mindful as an owner operator to do it, and then like you just mentioned, what are you putting to the side in order to make sure that you can focus on that and you have the product to sell.
Mm-hmm. Panel, thoughts?
So like we live in a broken world. Like nothing works sometimes. So it's like, what is the need of the product? What is the quality that you're offering, right? Because if you offer a good product, people are willing to wait. But like if they don't know you, if they don't know your product, then obviously you lose, right? So the game is, how can you fix the problem? So like even with like shortage supply of things, right? How bad do you need that product? Well, I really badly need that product so I can work. Okay, well, when I work with this product, is it quality? Is kind of what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think the challenge is this company makes things for someone else. So be it a store, be it a a welding shop or whatever, somebody else wants to sell a product they are responsible to make. And so you're affecting a business down the road. It's not like, hey, I'll just stop making your product, I've got some others I can make. They all have shortages, so it's not like a pivot.
No, I never said pivot.
Yeah, and we have overused that. It's not like, hey, this guy needs this red thing this way, that's how it has to go. I have to build 100 a month, and I used to do it for 3 years straight. Now I can't tell them when they're going to get it, how much it's going to cost, and how do they plan their life, and how, I think it's just all consuming psychologically and time wise. So it's very tough challenge.
My theme this year is resiliency. So things break, how are we going to fix it? That's my point.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, sorry, Don.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, so I don't know if this is, because I don't even have it nailed down in my own mind as to what this could look like, not knowing what the product is or the supplier needs are. But everybody is experiencing this. And I think we've all kind of reserved ourselves. If there's people out there that have not caught on yet that there are certain things that we need to wait for, then I don't know what rock they've been living under. I'm trying to find a couch right now, and I went onto the IKEA website and the entire page was sold out, not available. They don't have anything in stock right now. Now, if the big box stores can't get their inventory in, how do we expect the small guys, the smaller guys to just miraculously produce things with these supply chain issues? So that said, is there maybe something that they can do in way of customer experience to fill the gap while people are waiting, to keep them engaged, to keep people happy, to provide an extra value or an extra service? Or like I said, I don't know the product and the supplier that you're talking about, but is there something creatively maybe that they can do to say, okay, yes, we're having to wait on that, and yes, the cost of that is going to be higher than what I said, but I've got 1,000 of whatever this is over here, so I'm going to throw that in as an extra or something like that to say thank you for your patience, thank you for continuing to work with me despite these difficulties. I don't know if something like that could work.
Yeah, I think in a distributor world where you have a number of products and you're out of something that you're supposed to give them and say, hey, tell you what, you can also sell this. But in a manufacturing plant, you make exactly this piece for them. And there's nothing else you make or whatever that will help or sort out something for them. So you're basically cutting them out. And yes, I would think, in my mind, everybody should understand that there's a supply shortage and just go, yeah, I'm going to live with it. But there are some companies out there that maybe it's their livelihood or they're just not going to accept this fact. And they just ride and ride and ride, the owners of these companies and say, you're destroying my company. You're not giving me the right service. I'm going to, it's like there are some that like it and others that agree will work with you. But there are still those that are so affected that they are not very nice about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so we have another wave or a generation coming into effect starting to think differently than us. So like you grow, adapt, and change. But there's other people coming into the workforce that will desecrate you because they think different. So like, why are you still making those after 30 years when it doesn't work? When like the life, okay, the top 10 jobs right now at this very moment didn't exist 10 years ago. So like you have to grow, you have to develop, you have to change. What you were doing a year ago doesn't work. So how do you pivot? Oh, that's the first time I said pivot, but I actually meant it.
Take a drink.
And change it up, right? Drink.
I agree with all of it. It is difficult though, because if you're in a manufacturing, like I used to work for a international motorcycle company. Well, they don't have the choice, right? Like their frame has been their frame for 16 years. They're not going to adjust it now because they can't get a certain alloy. Like it has to happen, right? So again, Don, I agree that the statement is how you can pivot so much, but if it's a core commodity for your business and you're relying on someone else to produce it and they can't do it, it like eliminates your opportunity to make money. So how do you bridge that gap is almost an impossibility. I'm curious to see how some of these businesses that are affected like that are either going to go into research and development or, become scientists and, hey, now we need to retool and utilize this iron ore versus this because it's more readily available locally. Like who knows, right? But I'm curious to see how those top producers come to the forefront because of the adjustments that they've made.
It will be interesting because it could be just a simple switch of materials, right? What's more readily available that still is compatible to help construct that product, right?
Yeah,
It
and
could
sometimes
be,
it's just a no. Like you can't do anything about it, right? Like I had a dinner yesterday with an auto dealer, and they're like, "We're 2 years away. Like, it doesn't matter what we want; it matters what we can have." And they're 2 years away from the actual correction of inventory, right? Nothing can be done. They're not going to open up another plant with no people to pretend to build more cars. It's just simply this is now where we're at. People are going to wait, or they're going to pay a premium. And if you want it, you better get it today. Like it's very much an emotional buy.
Yeah. I've been thinking lately that maybe there's a different approach in these kind of intense, narrow situations. And that's maybe more about bringing in some fresh minds to kind of take the heat off you to say, listen, I got to have someone else below me that, hasn't been dealing with this for 2 years. That's a little fresher mind that can, has not been beat up so much. And they come in, it's like switching the players in the soccer game. Halftime, someone else comes in and takes it, and they can run like crazy for a while because they haven't been beat up for 2 years. So maybe it's that style of approach versus a physical change or get a different item.
Yeah, when it comes to that supply chain, everyone is affected, right? So it's like the way the company can adjust. So for every problem, there should be a solution. And if they cannot find that solution, I guess they don't think that hard in order to find it. So I'm sure from every issues company might have, right, face, there's new services can arise. So to me, I would say, obviously it's hard to navigate all that shipment, all that manufacturing issues that happens, but at the same time, I think companies can be more creative. And as you said, like, yeah, new blood can step in and start something else in, within their already existing like services. So
Yep, it's good to think about. In this case, it's like the electronics chip for a car. There is no alternative to the chips that go in those cars. It has to come from, there's 3 plants in the world that make it, and those cars are going to sit on a lot somewhere until they get those 3 chips. There's not like, okay, let's create a new plant. This just doesn't have the technology. All the components cannot come together to make this thing any faster. They are just cars sitting out there, and trucks and big things waiting for the chips to operate the windshield wipers, the airbags or whatever. They're just things that will not get any faster, and you cannot do without it. There's not a substitute. You go to every division in China to find whatever you can, and there are just no places to get these things.
And from the consumer also standpoint, like we used to get like everything like instant, right? Like Amazon deliver like same day or next day. So sometimes maybe it's time actually to minimize our desires and like just to live with what we already have, and I think that's all the whole like economy that's like pulling out all of us down, kind of in a way to slow us down, so to the whole so people can actually realize that sometimes you don't need that another new cell phone or whatever else, right? So you can possibly live with what you already like acquired. So, and if it's still good, like why not to keep it? And just so many trash in landfill, like new items that haven't been even opened yet, right? They're already in a landfill. Like, so that's what we face, and that's with the humans who created that. So
Final thoughts?
Yeah, I like what everybody said. It's getting that 50,000 foot view, putting the paper up and doing that brainstorm, and bringing other people in and going, is there a possibility? Is there a used stock that we could refurbish that could get us through this? Is there a completely different supply chain? Where is the block within that supply? If it's a chip, well, we don't have much of a workaround. But if it's let's say if it's shipping or a particular company, then there is possibly a workaround. There's different suppliers. There's maybe we're the ones that are going to create a different route. Is there anybody locally that does have the supply? Is there a company that we can buy or take over at this point? Like if I'm in that situation, who else is in that situation? Maybe I can expand my footprint by, taking out the competition on that side. Or is there something else that I can add and be a little bit of a distribution side while I'm working through this problem as well? Maybe I become the manufacturer of what's needed. If it's so wide within the industry, maybe it's a possibility that I manufacture it here. Of course, you have to go through the costs and everything on that side, but might be a possibility.
Let's go back to the meaning of Christmas again. And especially what Shannon said at the beginning, it's not stuff. And like, to be honest, I think that Christmas means business box lunch to me, because it's like a family of people, right? And like the whole supply chain like thing, I believe in 7 streams of income, 7 streams of spiritual growth. So if one income is not providing for you, go get another income. That's the definition of an entrepreneur, right? I had one friend that was like, I'm one business owner and do one thing. So I run one company. That's not an empire. Like building an empire is you have lots of ways to make money. So go make money in lots of ways.
Final thoughts, going once, going twice. Sold. Woo. I knew we'd fill the time, but incredibly sage advice. I want to close out because many of these attach back to the same basic premises for a moment. Premises, as a good friend of mine would say, in a much different accent than mine. The premise is different. The premise is different. With Dawn and Paul and Matt and Shannon and Yulia and Lorette all commenting around the same areas. Every problem we've had has been centering around what? The value of strategic things in your life, not the value of technical or tactical or operational things. Foundation of good relationships. So let's take Dawn's manufacturing challenge as a moment. When was the last time that client talked to everybody in the supply chain, including their competitors? Get 3 competitors, 2 suppliers, 1 potential local manufacturer, and a reseller or a recycling company all together and say, is there any way we can make this work? If there isn't, you've explored more options. Every time we leverage more brains to think about something, and once again, to Dawn's commentary for a moment, we start to look at problems from a different place. So we tend to think very linear. As we get compromised emotionally, our ability to focus broad starts to narrow down. Our frustration and our emotional state hijacks our ability to be clear-headed and in a different entire part of our brain when we need to actually not just problem solve, but actually solution plan. We're using higher order thinking. And when we get emotionally compromised, that thinking gets taken away. It's hijacked by another portion of the brain. Because of it, we're not going to fix our problem. We only see the problem. And as anybody that's ever driven a car at speed or taken a high-speed course or ever heard any of the good stories, and the great Tony Robbins talks about this all the time, getting in a race car with a professional driver one day, he goes, and by the way, when we lose control and we're driving towards a wall, remember not to turn into it, turn away from it, right? Because your brain, as you're going towards the wall, is going to be thinking, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall, don't hit the wall. This is the red car principle at play. And so what do you start to think about? Not hitting the wall. Well, what are you focused on? The wall. What's going to happen? You're going to start to turn into the wall instead of turning away from it. You just start to focus on those things. So we're only focused on our problems. We never think about our solutions. And your solutions in an environment like we have now may involve, scary thought, talking to one of your competitors, building a new manufacturer. Hell, if any average manufacturing, and so let's talk about a company that either sells other people's things or may manufacture the things, but they need supplies coming from somewhere else. If you're comparably sized and you know there are comparably sized competitors, would the 5 of you have a better bargaining position, or 3 of you or 10 of you than 1 of you does? Would the 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 of you have a better potential manufacturing position than anybody else? I have a client that runs a massive manufacturing plant not far from here. And what's their primary principle? We'll build anything. They still work in steel structures, oil and gas, bridges, and other things like that, but they'll build anything. They made a table. They do directional drilling equipment. They do everything. They repair stuff. Engines burn out. It gets dropped off all the time. They do whatever it takes to survive, but they also build a broad range of relationships. And when somebody comes and says, can you do this? They go, yeah. And then they go find somebody to help them solve the problem. So when we're here, and today was what are the problems we've seen, faced, et cetera, over the last 6 months or a year, what might even be ongoing and doesn't have a solution yet. Your takeaway in this festive season should be, get yourself surrounded by really good people. Talk to them regularly about your problems. Be willing to think laterally or sideways about what's happening. Build new inroads if you can. If not, then it means you have to do what? Adapt what you're doing in business. You have to shift what's happening with where you're at, or you're going to be stuck in the same spot. And if you're stuck, inevitably your business is going to die. So get your crap wired. Oh, wait, no, I ticked the box. Get your shit wired. Get it wired in a hurry. Otherwise, you are screwed, right? All right, with that, we are at 12:57. It's just about time to wrap up. Stretch, mental push-ups. I want 15 seconds of pep talk out of each of you. Send somebody off with good news. And next week, part 2 is what's one of the best things that you've seen in the last 6 months or a year? Why did it work out? Everybody's going to provide some advice and suggestions on that one. But today was about solving problems. So let's give everybody a pep talk to send them on their way during the festive season. You have 15 seconds. That's going to be it. Stretch it out. And I'm going to open the floor with Shannon first.
Because I got a meeting with Ali in 3 minutes.
I know. You can tell him I said you're fine.
My pep talk. There are sometimes problems that there aren't solutions for, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop moving. It just means that you need to find what does work for you. And the best way to do that is to reach out, is to talk with people, is to have networks around you, that you can reach out to and get that kind of support. And just like those obstacles are going to come up, you know what, you are going to fail. But again, that shouldn't stop you from moving forward. Don't take it personal. It's not a reflection on who you are as a human being, or who you know, or anything. Like, it's not your intelligence level. It's not whatever like that. It didn't work out. It wasn't for you. So again, if you are in business, the best way to build a business is with help from, it's like that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Think of your business as a child.
Perfect.
Right?
Thank you, Shan. Yulia, 15-second pep talk. Let's give everybody a pep talk.
Yeah, what's on my thought? So what I was gonna say, just a sec, give me reverse. Can I come back after?
Yeah, absolutely. Don, you're up. Later, Shan.
I saw a good example of where a business was stuck in a certain situation, and we said, well, let's move forward. Let's keep moving to this area. It's a little bit different for you. Let's try it. And when we got to that area, we saw new branches that could go from that area. And it wasn't from moving from this, we couldn't see it. We moved over here. Now we can see new things, and some new opportunities and ways to solve problems came up. So it was like, hey, take a step forward and you got a new vantage point. So it can work.
Perfect. Yulia, go ahead.
Okay, so what I was thinking, sometimes, like, just even my example, like I'm sitting like in my own cubicle, let's say, sulk with my, day-to-day operations, and you don't see outside of your four walls. So sometimes it's good just to get out of your industry even, and talk to people that have maybe the same problems, just in different industries, just to get the ideas and feed your brain a little bit that way. So, and yes, Shannon said, just reach out. It's always gonna help you no matter what. And if there is a problem that can wait, sometimes can wait, so just put it aside, and maybe in a week or so, that won't be an issue anymore. So you just like, okay, sometimes we just have so many problems, and but it's not even a problem, right? So.
Perfect. Thank you. Paul?
It's the end of the year. Well, how far have you come since the beginning of the year? What milestones, what things did you do well? We focus so much on moving forward and not seeing what we have accomplished in the last 12 months. So it's time to pat yourself on the back. Yeah, things don't go exactly as we want. Things are not linear. Things don't work that way. But, what did you push yourself to do? What big thing did you learn this year that opened up your world? So, really celebrate and take that stress off of yourself. Yeah, we are going into 2022, but what did you accomplish this year? And really look at it, really think about it.
Matt?
Celebrate the wins, speaking to Paul. And again, write down the 5 most important things, and don't write down anything else until you have accomplished those by yourself or with your team. But there's always going to be somebody that knows more. Reach out, find those people.
All right, brothers and sisters, thank you so much. And hey, to the audience out there that's been watching, following along, click through on LinkedIn, watching on YouTube. We had some great comments today as well. Thank you so much for joining us on the MCC Virtual Business Box Lunch, December 10th, 2021. Problems, we've all got them. Surround yourself with good people. Leverage what they know. Find new ways to do things. And every so often, get up, move, and stretch a little bit, because that change in perspective is going to help you to find a brand new view on solving the same old problem. And that just might not only get you out of it, but make it even better than before. On behalf of the audience that was here today, as always, Dawn, Lorette, Shannon, Yulia, thank you so much. Paul, Matt, you guys, love you, my brothers. And to the audience, hey, come back next week. We're going to close out for the season strong. We're talking about the good stuff that we've seen over the last 6 months of the year, some of the great things to cause celebration over. And because of you, we get to come here every Friday and do something we love to do, which is do what? Try and provide some great advice and suggestions, help solve your problems, and give you something to distract yourself from everything else going on in life. Mitch Kamich, Virtual Business Box Lunch. We are out. See you next Friday. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a fantastic